Hello, this is Freethought Forum, and a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Faithless Forrest.
And I am Jonas Holdeman. I am not Larry Rhodes.
Jonas is substituting for Larry today, who may be able to join us later.
And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone.
All right, today we want to speak to you about comparative religion. Why are atheists speaking to you about religion? Well, we think a deeper understanding of religion is one of the best ways to shock people into a rationalist worldview. We invite you to start calling in now at the program at the bottom of the screen. And while we're doing that, we have a few announcements. Jonas will help me on this. Here we go.
Oh, the happy hour with the Atheist Society of Knoxville.
We're going to meet at Byerly's tonight after the show for food, drink, and conversation. We'll meet up on Thursday, November 11th at the Cairo Cafe on Gay Street for more of that food and conversation. And just look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion on a table. That's how you find us. Jonas, can you tell us about the Rationalists of East Tennessee?
Why, certainly, Forrest. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meet 4 times a week. 4 times a month.
That's right.
And on the first and third Sundays, we meet at Pellissippi State Community College for our forums and discussions. On the second Sunday of the month at 4 o'clock, we meet at Barnes & Noble for the book discussion. And you do not have to read the book before you come in.
Yeah, that's an important thing. We always have sort of an outline of the book, so you don't need to have read it to fully participate in it.
And finally, on the fourth Sunday, we have the Reflections dinner party, usually at the home of one of our members. And the subject coming up next time will be immigration.
All right. We have a book club this month, the 14th. Good Without God, What a Billion Non-Religious People Do Believe. And on November 21st, discussions will be with a guest, Dr. Itmar Arel, on general artificial intelligence. But today's subject will be comparative religion.
Oh, what's that I hear? I think I hear Larry Rhodes at the door.
All right, well, come on in, Larry.
Oh, come on.
All right. So a question often posed to atheists by theists is attributed to Pascal, and it goes something like this. If you erroneously believe in God, you lose nothing, assuming that death is the absolute end. Whereas, if you correctly believe in God, you gain everything, eternal bliss. But if you correctly disbelieve in God, you gain nothing, death ends it all. Whereas if you erroneously believe in God, if you erroneously disbelieve in God, you lose everything. So when I first heard this argument, I was shocked that such, frankly, a lame argument could be offered in good faith. There's that word again. And the universe, I'd say, offers us no reason to believe in that there really is a Jehovah. And if all you can suggest is that it's sort of a choice, a gamble, to believe in God or not, you've prematurely abandoned reason and the evidence of our senses, as well as the extended senses that science and technology have brought to us.
And you brought up one of the problems with it when you said Jehovah, because it assumes that you're talking about Jehovah and not one of the 10,000 other gods that have been created by man throughout the history of the world.
Well, that's right. That brings us into the subject of comparative religions. There's lots of them out there, and we want to take a look at some today. So, history begins with Sumer. And when we say history, we of course mean writing. Sumer is first civilization that developed writing in what's known as Mesopotamia, or the land between the rivers. Today we know that as this place of
the Middle East,
of conflict. It's Iraq.
Iraq and Iran, and
yeah. And well, there we find a wealth of gods and goddesses.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, how can they make so many deities? Well, you make deities out of the cheapest of materials: thin air,
and imagination.
And imagination. Well, we have a list of Sumerian deities here. We got them in the background behind Larry and I. We might want to hit a couple of the high points. There's Enlil. He's kind of a chief god of the air. And Inanna. Inanna is the goddess of sexual love. You might recognize her as being very analogous to the Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite. And she, like Aphrodite, is also a goddess of war.
And Venus.
Venus would be, I think, the Latin. And I always switch those two. The Latin and Greek are easy to confuse. Well, Larry, surely these must be myths, stories from civilization's adolescence, or if not childhood. But if Pascal is right, must we believe them?
Well, first of all, I mean, there's so many things wrong with Pascal's wager. One of the things is, can you choose to believe anything?
That's right.
Can you just say, oh, I'm going to believe in this today, or I'm going to believe in that tomorrow? When you believe in something, you are convinced of its validity. You're convinced of its truthfulness. You can't just come up and say, well, okay, I'll believe in God. If you don't, or you can't, it's the same way if you do believe in God, you can say, oh, I don't, I'm not going to. It's not something you can turn on and off. You are convinced either toward its existence or it's not. And one thing that's really convincing to most Christians is when they look at all the other religions of the world, they easily say that those are just stories. Those are the wildest of tales. But then when they look at their own book and they realize, or they should realize, that this is the purest fantasy. A talking snake, a tree of knowledge.
They also had a talking ass, I believe.
That's right. The fact that you could get knowledge from a fruit. There are so many things. Even the fact that we have a soul, or that it lives on afterlife. There are so many things wrong with this that Pascal just cut to one point and said, you know, if you believe in this, taking all of this other stuff for granted. Because he lived in a society that did take all this other stuff for granted.
Yeah. I think one of the weaker points, you touched closely on it, was to say, well, you can't just choose to believe, and you can't fake it either. You know, the rules of these deities say that, you know, they can read your mind. They would know if you're genuine.
Right.
You know, it as I said, it seemed like such a weak argument. I couldn't believe someone with the, you know, reputation of Pascal could make it in good faith.
He's basically saying that God is an idiot, because you could say, okay, you're right, I believe, when you really don't believe, and then God would say, oh, he believes now. You know, he doesn't read your mind, he doesn't know every thought that goes through your head. You know, it's the wildest of imaginings.
Poor argument. Well, okay, we touched a little bit on the Sumerian gods and goddesses. I did want to talk a little about the history of one Sumerian goddess who I think has an interesting story, and that's Ishtar. Ishtar is featured prominently, also known as Inanna, in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is the world's oldest surviving literature. It's like 1,700 years or more older than Genesis. In it is a fascinating story of a worldwide flood survived by a few humans who built a boat and took on board 2 each of all kinds of animals. Does it sound familiar? All right.
Certainly.
So would this prove Jehovah exists? Because, oh, well, they've confirmed the Bible?
Not even. The thing about it is, when was this supposed to have happened? I mean, there's so many ways of disproving this. But let's say it happened 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, or even 6.
Well, I believe this story was written before the story of Noah would be written, if we use the bishop whose last name, Ishtar's
well, let's say
chronology.
6 to 8 then, or 10,
Yeah.
even 10. That means that all of the different races of human that populate the earth today have descended and differentiated and populated the entire world within 6,000 or 8,000 years, which genetically is impossible.
That would be super fast evolution.
That would be super fast evolution. Not only that, but all the thousands of spiders, that we have millions of species of spiders have all genetically separated into separate species in the same amount of time.
Don't forget the fantastic, amazing coincidence that all of the pouch marsupials left the Ark and traveled all the way to Australia and didn't leave any evidence of their travels. No dead was found in between.
Right. One of the things that creationists will say is that, well, if you look at the fossil records, you notice that the bigger things are at the bottom, like dinosaurs are big, and then you have smaller things like animals and stuff there at the top when you dig into fossils. But that just makes no sense, because they say that the bigger things would fall to the bottom, sink to the bottom and be preserved there. But we're talking strata that reaches every inch of the earth. If you had a flood and things fell down to it, there would be one layer of flood remains that would have all this stuff in it.
And don't you think that perhaps there would be, the mice and the men buried by the fish if it was washed up from the sea?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why don't we find mice bones mixed in with the dinosaur bones?
No.
All right. Well, leaving the land between the rivers and jumping to Africa, we find the world's longest-lived civilization. That's ancient Egypt.
And one of the best recorded as well.
That's because they live in a dry climate that lends itself to preserving things. Well, the Egyptians made God at a fantastic rate. They had gods like the blades on a Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. You can see in the images above us here that the gods are all lined up worshiping the recently deceased party here depicted in this papyrus. Well, one goddess I especially like, though, is Ma'at. Her role is creation and continuously preventing the universe from returning to chaos. Her primary role in Egyptian mythology is also in justice. Sounds like we got a call, Larry.
We have a call. Go ahead, caller. What's your name? Do you have a question?
Hello?
Hello.
Speak to us, caller.
Yes, I have a question. Why do you think that Christianity sort of caught on over those other ancient religions and sort of dispelled their gods and introduced its God?
One of the main reasons was that it was adopted by the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire spread it at the point of the sword. Was it Constantine?
Constantine, he converted to Christianity somewhere around 324 or something like that, A.D., and he attributed winning a particular battle to having prayed to the Christian God the night before. And then with the power of the Roman army, spread it around.
So do you think that it's primarily because the Roman Empire had such large influence?
Yes, a lot of it is. But there are several things that are in the religion itself that makes a big difference. One of the facts is that they promise eternal life, just for being good, basically, and for believing a certain way. Another thing, if you can fill in there for a second,
okay.
I'll try to think of that.
Well, there were, interestingly enough, at the same period of time, there were a couple other monotheisms that came into existence. A little before Christianity, Egypt itself had the world's first monotheism, the worship of the god Aten by Akhenaten, their pharaoh. Now, that religion didn't outlive him long, but it's probably no coincidence that the idea for monotheism began to catch on and spread in neighboring regions. There was Mithraism or Mithranism that was also competing in the Roman Empire, but I've heard it asserted that Mithraism, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, lost out because they didn't offer women participation in the church. The Christian church, although giving women often a subservient role, did allow participation.
And another
that was my understanding too. Now, do you think there's anything that these religions could offer people today that a naturalistic view cannot offer? For instance, can science provide us with a set of morals? And I'm going to listen to your comments and hang up. Thank you.
Well,
okay, caller, thank you.
I would like to address one thing before you, before we leave the subject of what made Christianity spread. Yahweh was the Jewish war god. He was a god of war, and if you read the Old Testament, you'll see that they always call on Yahweh when they go into battle and stuff. And when you've got a warlike people and with